Hi, I'm Brittany Powers and this is my Module 1 video. For this assignment we considered various communication forms and recorded a personal video about ourselves. So here is a peek into my world. So a little bit about me. I help young humans believe they are capable of doing anything they set their minds to. I also equip children with the tools they need to be successful in modern society. I teach a variety of skills, including but not limited to how to tie shoes, how to read and write, how to make a friend, how to navigate the heartache of watching parents go through a divorce, and how to tell time. Here is a little bit about my home life. I am a friend and wife to Bob. I'm also a dog mom to Lord Archibald, so this is my corgi right here, my husband Bob. I'm an amateur cook and decorator. I love trying new wild recipes. My husband says I never cook the same thing twice. I also have a lot of fun decorating and, trying my best to duplicate and make ideas from Pinterest my own. Here's a picture of my parents' home that they were brave enough to let me decorate for them. I'm also a lover of staying active. So what forms of communication help me succeed in my work? Here are some of them. The way I communicate most often is through written communication, primarily through email. I use this communication form most often. I utilize it to connect with fellow teachers, school specialists, my administrators, and of course with the families I serve. I use email to send out a weekly newsletter to the families I work with. Less often than email, but also another form of written communication, I use Twitter to send little updates about what's going on in my classroom. Just an easy way to share with families and other teachers what we're doing with the students, and it's just a quick little update. I can share a note about what we're doing in school that day and a picture. The next form of communication I use to communicate with families and colleagues in the community is digital communication. Something that has been really important to me and the families I work with this year is Zoom. It's great because it allows us the opportunity to bring in guest speakers in a year where field trips were not allowed due to COVID precautions. It also gives you that personal feeling that comes with face-to-face meetings, even though meeting face-to-face was not really a possibility or considered safe this past year. So Zoom allowed us to still do that. I actually used Zoom for all my parent-teacher conferences this year, and it was awesome. Another form of digital communication that I use is Seesaw. Seesaw is so great because I can post photos of student work, videos of them doing the work in the moment, and I can share that with families and students. I can share it to the whole class for everyone to see, and it allows students to encourage each other and share notes about each other's work very quickly. It also gives me a chance to send private messages to parents or students to get feedback very quickly in the moment. I can also send out announcements through Seesaw to both students and families. Another way I communicate is obviously orally. I do this through telephone calls, so if there's a topic or a situation that is more sensitive in nature, I give a quick telephone call and I'm able to speak to the families and provide that warmth in my voice so that they understand that the message is being delivered with a kind heart and with sincerity. Sometimes emails can't convey those kind of emotions. And the last way I communicate orally is through YouTube. I used YouTube a lot this last year, especially when my school was using the hybrid model, because some things were just a little too much to communicate with first graders when I'm just writing paragraphs of how to do something, so it was easier at times for me to create a YouTube video about the new phonics lesson. That way both families and students could watch and learn that way at a time that was convenient for them. Some district provided tools that we have to use that help with communication. They obviously give us a district email. We have a school phone in our classrooms. This year they updated our district Zoom account, so it was enabled with more safety mechanisms to prevent hackers from interrupting a meeting. We also have a district Seesaw account. Basically, it's the same as the free account, but we got the upgraded one with more features. My district also provides Canvas. It's basically an online learning platform where you can post assignments, announcements, and videos for students to view within a safe platform. You're also able to provide grades right on Canvas and give very quick feedback, and it's all in one spot. You can send messages and do video chats. It's a really cool platform. I actually didn't utilize it that much this past year only because my students are so young. A lot of them had a difficult time using it independently, so for some students it was great. For a lot of others that were spending most of their time in daycare doing hybrid from a daycare location, it wasn't very sustainable because a lot of those students had to be caught up in the evenings when they're at home, and so families just weren't a big fan of it. I am fortunate to work in a district that has provided plenty of resources to us teachers so that regular connection among colleagues and families is very easily achievable. So as I reflected on the resources that were provided in the quiz this week, the information I gathered really resonated with me. I could automatically relate to feeling bored with lots of conversations in my life, especially in the workplace. At times I feel bored even when I'm the person sharing, and something I aim to do in light of this new information that I read is to simply resist the temptation to say what's expected. And that's hard to do because it's the most comfortable thing in the moment. We've all rehearsed those answers plenty of times, and so it's kind of learned behavior to just spit them out when we're asked a question about ourselves. But I want to resist that temptation, and instead of simply saying what my job title is, I want to try to take it a step further and instead share about the parts of my job that I find meaningful or exciting. I'll also try to share stories and share the information that would show how I got to the place I am and why this place is so important to me. We all have a story to share, and so I'm going to try my best to be more intentional about sharing mine. My hope is that the resources were correct and that it will give other people boldness to do the same thing and help me build more genuine, more meaningful relationships. My district direction on communication, I had a hard time considering this because at first my thought was, we've never been told what to do as far as communication. But as I thought on it a little bit longer, I realized that there were lots of unspoken suggestions and initiatives that were hinted at but never clearly stated that we had to do it. So I've never received explicit instructions on how the district wishes for teachers to maintain connections. But it is understood that my district is made up of very involved families. Teachers are expected to include those families and have a sort of open door policy so that those parents and families can be involved as much as they want. We have very supportive families through their efforts and also through their finances, and so my district is pretty open about wanting to maintain that, and so teachers are encouraged to be appreciative of that. It is implied, although not explicitly stated in it, the school building that I specifically work for within the district, There's an understanding that teachers should send out a weekly newsletter to parents just sharing what the students are going to be learning in the coming week. And then we're also responsible to update families about any upcoming school events and need to know, such as fundraisers or days off or spirit weeks, things like that. We're encouraged to read and respond to all emails we receive during the day in a timely fashion, although that has never been explicitly stated as like one of our contract duties. It's encouraged. But however, my principal is a big advocate of taking your personal time seriously and using that time to rest and recover and spend time with your families. So she always asks that we set up an out-of-office email over the weekends and during holidays. She also does that, so she kind of leads by example in that way. This assignment correlated to CLO 5.3, that students will understand and demonstrate the capacity to communicate through oral, written, and digital means within the larger organizational, community, and political context when advocating for the needs of their school and community. I believe that this assignment really directly correlated to this standard because we had to analyze the various tools we use already to communicate with the community we work with. Tongue twister. In doing this, it caused me to think, could I be doing more? Is what I'm doing effective? Are there areas that I've fallen short? And if I were to use more technology and be a little bit more brave with technology, would I be serving those families more? We're also exposed to those resources that I believe have already strengthened the way I will communicate in the future. And I'm hopeful that they will help us make better first impressions that will lead to opportunities. Lastly, I learned to use a new recruiting tool called Screencast-O-Matic. I used Screencast-O-Fi before, and I can never get the webcam to show up at the same time as my presentation. So I was really excited that I figured out how to do that on Screencast-O-Matic. So that's already a win for this first week. This is going to enable me to communicate digitally, orally, and in writing all at the same time, both now and in the future. For my relevancy statement, I wrote, this assignment was relevant to my learning because it helped me understand the importance of first impressions. I learned some research-based strategies that will help me make better first impressions in the future, and this will hopefully lead to more opportunities. Making a positive, lasting first impression will be important to me as I seek out opportunities as a school leader. This assignment was also relevant because as I reflected on my expectations on how I should communicate with families and colleagues, I recognized that this had never been clearly stated to me. If a teacher lacks clarity on their expectation, they can't be held responsible for failing to meet whatever their administrators do expect of them. As a future school leader, I will aim to provide specific clarity on matters like this. People should know what they're expected to do. Something I can do right now is simply ask my administrator what her expectation is for me in this area. The last way this assignment is relevant to my learning is by challenging me to use new digital tools in order to convey my learning. Being able to do this efficiently will be important as a school leader. Ending with my personal reflection, I mentioned previously in this assignment and on this video that I have experienced many conversations that simply just felt forced and disingenuous. When I felt a sense of this, I typically don't feel interested to continue in that relationship or want to get to know that person more. If I'm feeling this way about others, they most likely are feeling it about me. This assignment has changed the way I view first impressions. I now understand how important they are and how unforgiving they can be. When meeting new people in the future, I feel emboldened to share more of my story and to be more authentic about my passions. I will ask people who are close to me, help me clarify what problems I'm good at solving. I will also have my friends and family members help me improve my first impressions by listening to my ideas and giving me the feedback I need to be most successful. Thanks for listening.